Hey guys, so I'm back with another episode of Taco Imposters. And right before I was doing this, like getting this episode ready, Not before I was getting this ready. I was getting this episode ready, and I got a email for the podcast, so you guys can ask me questions. It's tacoimposters@gmail.com. I decided that because I watched another one, and they just did the same thing. They just took their name, made gmail.com, and then made an email for questions. You know, so it's easier to do it that way. I think it is, but anyway. So that's what I did, and yeah, I was I don't know. I was thinking about stuff, and I was thinking about like the phones, and back when we had phones before. I was watching a video of somebody unbox an original iPhone, and I was like, oh yes. Well, it wasn't back in the day. It was literally like now, today, or whatever, yesterday, whatever. I don't know when it was, but it was recently. And she's like, it's real. It's got to be real. I'm like, don't know about that, but hey, whatever. And then, yeah, so then I was thinking about like the stuff that came, like, I think about the same time, but then also like right before stuff like the original iPhone. Because stuff before that, it was like, and I was thinking of texting, and I was thinking about how back in the day when people texted and it cost you each, because she was talking about how she made a video of, she never unboxed an iPhone, right, on YouTube before, but she, what's it called, unboxed her original iPhone's first bill, AT&T bill, and I'm like, really? And it was 300 pages because they logged, well, they didn't log them, like, record what she said, but they logged her texts in terms of, like, okay, this text, it'll be 10 cents, this text will be, and she, I was like, wow, I remember that, back in the day when they, like, I never had one, but I remember people, like my mom and people, who had, like, you were charged per text, right? So you were charged, like, I don't know, 10 cents per text, and it was stupid in terms of, like, when you look back at it, you're like, what? You didn't have unlimited text? It's like, no, not really. It's sort of like, I mean, there probably was, but nobody really had it, right? It was probably expensive. It was probably like unlimited data now. How you can get unlimited data, but so many people don't have unlimited data because they really just don't care, if that makes any sense. They're like, well, and also some people's parents aren't going to give them unlimited data because they know that they'll waste their lives. So like they give them, and I hate people who give people like a gig, and you're like, what am I gonna do with a gig? Nothing. And I was like, yeah. But then I know somebody who has 14 gigs between four people, and he's the only one who uses it, like ever. So it's like, well, yeah. And then I remember like the phones that came out, like the ones they would slide up, and you get like a like slide ups of a landscape, and you get a keyboard, and people would text all the time. Because I was thinking, because like, yeah, the people who had T9 texted like maybe 5 times a day, maybe 10. Like they didn't text a lot at all. They just kind of texted, and that was that. But the people who had those keyboards, they used them all the time. I knew people who did it all the time, and they were looking for the best. And 10 cents was about the best price you could get for texts at the time, right? Because calls weren't that expensive. Calls were like 50 cents a minute or something. 30 cents a minute, I don't know. Like they were okay, right? So calls were like fine, right? But texts were very much like, oh, and it was a youth thing too. So like the youths wanted texting. They were like, I want to be able to text, blah blah blah, and like okay, and so like the best price that most people could get was about 10 cents a text, and it was good. But I mean, if you text like 10,000 words, like if people texted like they do today, then oh my gosh, people would be up the wazoo with no texting. Like no, we're not texting at all ever, no more. So yeah, but just like remembering all that kind of stuff and like plans and stuff. Like, cause nobody now pays for text, right? Everyone has just like unlimited texts. Maybe they still pay for minutes, right? But they don't pay for text like ever. So it's very much like, oh yes, they just don't pay for text ever. They're just like, yeah, whatever, I'm good. They just get their unlimited text and they're good. But because see, I never did any of that because I never had a phone before iPhone 3. So I was like, well, I'm good with and I had unlimited text and I had whatever, so I was like I was good. But I'm saying like I knew people who had phones before that, and it was a lot of like this kind of stuff. And I remember all the built-in games on them. Oh my god, those were great. Like some of them were great. Like there was a Street Fighter game that I had once. I don't know if it was Street Fighter or a Street Fighter ripoff. I believe it was Street Fighter. And then there was like some like I don't know games, Snake and soccer games and all these other games that I used to have. I like used to play all the time, and they were like fun games to play. So yeah, and they were good. I have to say they were. Well, they were okay. Because it wasn't a thing to do that. So when you got one, you were like, "Whoa, there's a game on your phone? What? Whoa!" Like, and it would would be like, "Yeah," but I don't know. It was kind of pre predecessor to like apps, but like it was one of those things that if they didn't put it on there, nobody would have cared. They would be like, "Hey, whatever." So it's not like something you needed or whatever. And yeah, and like all the phones and like people remember. Like I'm right here, right now. Where is it? Oh, here. Staring at a. I don't know if this is exactly the name of it, but the Nokia. Where's the number name model? 6030. I'm holding it in my hand. It had one of the best games on it ever. I think it was called Bounce. Oh my god, it was so good. Oh, I want because I don't have a battery, but now that I have a SIM card that I can like plop in here, I can be like, yes, whatever. But I want to plop a SIM card because it says when I had a battery in here, it had said, "Oh, insert a SIM card." I'm like, "Oh, below." And my mom was like, "No, no, no, you're not putting a SIM card." I'm like, "Why not?" And she's like, "No." I'm like, "Okay, fine." So now that I have like random SIM cards I can use and plop in here, I'm going to plop like SIM cards in here, and I'm gonna be able to like use them. So I'm going to get like I need a battery, but I'm going to get this thing working so I can replay an original game of Bounce on here. I mean, it was such a good. It was Bounce and then some random pinball game. But the pinball game I remember was the friggin' loudest thing ever. It was so loud. But anyway, so I remember going on vacation to Boston, and my mom had this phone, and we played it, and it was the loudest, 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 loudest game ever. It was so loud. So anyway, so it was very much like I don't know. This is just my thoughts on like phones, like all the old phones before like the iPhone and stuff. But even when the iPhone came out, there were still things like the Palm Pixie Plus, Palm Trio, Palm whatever, the Palm one, and then the like Blackberries. But then like, it was like what? It took like 3, 4 years before people realized, yeah, okay, this stuff's gonna have to die. Like, are these like made up, like not made up, but like are what's it called? Are dedicated operating systems like we make up, BlackBerry OS and Palm OS, right? You just have to die because you know you're just gonna have to die because it's not gonna work. And so Palm doesn't exist anymore, I don't think, or at least not under the same name. But BlackBerry still exists, but they are Android now because they smartened up and they went, yeah, we have to because like uh, uh, BlackBerry OS is never gonna survive. No. So now, I mean, their hardware isn't the greatest, but they're like those guys who are like living on these like what's it called? Physical keyboards, and you're like, come on, people, just kill it. Nobody cares. Okay, stop. Nobody cares for these physical keyboards anymore. Well, a lot of people don't care for physical keyboards anymore, but there are still like those like 5 people or whatever 1% of people or like 0.5% of people who are like, oh, I want a physical keyboard. It's so cool. Blackberry. And like I know people who have Blackberries. I'm like, why? Why do you have a Blackberry? You could have 500 million other phones. Why would you buy a Blackberry of all phones? I don't know. All the cameras are so much better than everybody else. I'm like, F off. Please stop. Just stop. No, no, it's not. You look at them and you're like, oh, mine's so much better. Put them side by side and you're like, no, 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 it's not. But it's also a personal thing again with these things. These what's it called? These cameras. It's a very like subjective thing. It's not an objective thing where oh my camera is better. It's a subjective thing where it's like, well, I like my camera better. So like I could personally hate the Pixel 2's camera. I mean, yes, the overall consensus is that camera is the best camera on smartphones, but I'm just saying, like, I could personally say, like, it's awful. And people would be like, what? You stupid? Like, yeah, but it's subjective, not objective. There's no objective, this camera is the best. Right? It's a subjective, everyone just thinks this camera, agrees that this camera is the best. You know? So it's not like you're going to be like, oh, no, you're dumb, you're wrong. No, I'm not wrong. Because I don't think. You know, I'm not saying I don't think so. I've never actually used it for a long time. I'm just saying, like, I could be that person who goes, yeah, well, I don't like it. And can't be like, well, it's stupid. No, because it's just not, my thing. It's a subjective thing. Like the speakers on a phone too are subjective also. Well, no, they're more objective, but they're still subjective in terms of like, I think they're fine, and somebody else could be like, no, you're an idiot. Like somebody with a Razer phone, because a Razer phone is objectively the loudest that people talk about, but it still could sound like garbage, right? Because that's the thing with speakers. There's a difference between it gets loud, and it just goes loud and like just overdoes everything, and you just can't hear a thing, and you're just like, that's it. You're like, you can't, like, it's awful. So, no, like, yeah, like the Razer phone was a weird thing because gaming phones don't really. Well, I mean, like phones dedicated to gaming don't really exist, but Razer is like, yeah, we're gonna do, yeah, oh yeah, we're gonna do this. Oh yeah, we're gonna do this, yeah. It's gonna be great. 120 hertz display. It's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be refresh rate. It's gonna be insane. It's gonna be great. And speakers are gonna be amazing. Oh, it's gonna be amazing. I'm just like, really? I'm not saying it's a bad phone. I never used one, so I don't know. But I'm just saying, like, all people reviewing it's like, oh, it's the best. It's all so great for gaming. Oh, it's like, really? What's wrong with like any other Android? Well, okay, maybe not any other Android phone, but like a lot of other Android phones. Like, what's wrong with them? And I don't know. I've never used one, so I don't know. But like, and then you've got all those people trying to innovate with either like the greatest cameras, the Huawei Mate no P20, which has 3 cameras. It's one of the first phones to have 3 cameras, and it's like it's not a bad thing, but yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen anytime soon. It's gonna take a while for people to, yeah, of course, notifications, but a while for people to like adopt that. But I mean, it's not bad. It's just I don't think it's that like tomorrow. It's not gonna be something that's going on every phone tomorrow. Like the next phone, all the next generation phones. And then you've got the people with like the great speakers, like the huge speakers, right? It's okay, fine. Then you've got the people that are like what are they called? The LG. No, it was was it LG? I think with LG. Oh gosh, the or is it Moto mods, right? Motorola mods. When they were the Moto mods, where they were like the clip-on things, right? Moto Z10, is that what it was? Anyway, and then you clipped on like a camera or speakers or a projector. I thought that was a cool idea, but I was also like, yeah, but how often were people actually going to use this? They'd have one clipped on all the time, and then they'd forget about the other two and be like, cause they'll have buy one, and that's it, and never like that'll be it, and you just that's it. So it's like, ugh. Not that it's a bad thing. It just like most people would probably either have the camera or the speaker or the projector, not all three. You're not gonna carry around all three. And people who did reviews of the phone said one thing and one thing only: the Hasselblad, I think it is, camera that it had was like almost worse, like way worse than the other one, right? Than the camera that was with the phone. But the thing with the camera with the phone, it didn't have physical zoom. It had software zoom, and people are like, yeah, well, it's good physical zoom. I'm like, yeah, but the camera's terrible, so why would I want to use it ever? Physical zoom, that it? Gosh. Anyway, that one, and then there was the ones with like 2 screens, and I'm like, it's a cool idea, but what's the point? Like, it doesn't. Like, am I going to use 2 screens all the time? And it's like, yeah, well, it's multitasking up the wazoo, bro. Multitasking, oh, it's fantastic. I'm like, really? Is it? And then stuff like, because a lot of things that people say were like, well, you could look at watch a YouTube video and look at the comments of a YouTube video. I'm like, okay. And then the other one was, you could extend a map. I'm like, that's actually useful. Like, there's little things, but like most of the time, I would never use, dual screens because it's just, to me, it's like a dumb gimmick that like they're trying to get you to buy these phones, and it's like, yeah, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying I just think it's a gimmick, and they're not gonna last very long unless they implement these things as a standard. It's like when Apple kills something, and then everyone else goes, oh, "Damn, they're like the biggest phone company ever. We gotta, do it too." Like they killed the headphone jack, and then everyone after that was like, "Yeah, you know what? Yeah, we'll kill the headphone jack too." But the thing with everybody else was they weren't Apple coming out with wireless headphones. They were just like, oh, "We'll just get rid of our headphone jack just to be the same as the big shots." And it's like, no, stop. You're stupid. You're dumb. Ah, you're dumb. You're dumb. But anyway, and then they killed the fingerprint scanner, and like, okay, yes, the fingerprint scanner has been going on the back of phones or the side of phones for a long time, but freak man, you killed the headphone jack. Sorry, the headphone jack first. Then you killed the fingerprint scanner, and a lot of people say that they don't like Face ID because it's like, oh, this is dumb. They're like, just give me Touch ID for some. Oh, God. Like the next iPhone should have Touch ID on. Put it on like the side of the power button. Like, come on, and you just like give us some sort of something. Honestly, what you should do is you should do like the Vivo, and give us under glass fingerprint scanning for the next iPhone. But I don't think they're going to do that anytime soon because I don't know. They're just not. They always do that. There's got to be a like, cause they're always like 5 years behind in like technology. Like it took freaking forever for them to get wireless charging, and that's been around for like 10 years. Uh, yes, mind you, it wasn't in like every phone, but it was a thing in a lot of phones for like 5 years. And so it's like it didn't have that. It didn't have what else? It just didn't have a lot of things that just were like really glass backs and didn't have this and didn't have that, and there's a lot of things that Android has had for like 5 years, and you're like, really, really, people, really, really, just so like I think like I remember watching a guy, and he got a question. It was a Q&A, and had a question. It was who's the big guy, and it's like, who's the big guy who's gonna put under glass display fingerprint scanning, and they were like, Samsung, because they innovate, because Samsung actually innovates. Unlike freaking Apple, who takes like 50 years to innovate, and like always 5 years behind. And so it's like, come on, people, really? Apple, you want to be the biggest company freaking in the world? Then innovate better. They never innovate, but that's what keeps them going. I think the fact that they don't innovate too much, you know, they can keep the people who are there. Like I remember somebody was telling me once, it was this is just like a side note of stuff, but like Apple is one of the biggest companies in the world. Okay, when Greece was in its financial troubles, whatever it was, they had to be bailed out, whatever, start over. They were doing that big vote thing, and they were like, "Oh, we're gonna start over. We're gonna get a bailout, right?" Apple could have bailed them out something like 5 times, 5 or 6 times. It was insane. They have so much money, but anyway, you know. And then somebody else was saying how like the biggest, what's it called in the world, the biggest countries in the world is like you know Russia, China, America. It was like Russia, China, um, uh, United Kingdoms, America, and then like the sixth one is California would be the sixth biggest country, or sixth biggest, yeah, in terms of like wealth and people and stuff. And then you'd probably have like Apple with like in terms of like how much money they have. It's crazy. Anyway, yeah. So Apple just doesn't really want to innovate. They'll come around to it when everybody's doing it and they look like an idiot. Because that's the thing. They're going to look like an idiot eventually. And go, yeah, well, they're just gonna. Because that's the thing. Everybody had wireless charging, and everybody had glass backs, and everybody had like a different looking phone. And so it's like, well, and the bezels were getting tiny, so they were like, well, okay, fine. So they had to do something with it. They didn't have to like do what they did, but they had to do something to make them better. You know, make it just different even. So, um, yeah. So I don't know what phones are gonna look like because we're gonna look back 10 years from now. We're gonna go iPhone 10. We had what? Face ID. Oh man, man. You know, because in whatever 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 100 years, 70, 80, 90, 100 years, we're going to have these things in our brains, I'm sure, like implanted into us. It's going to be ridiculous in terms of like, we're going to think, because it's like a song, it's like the Rhett and Link song, Dead iPod. At the end of the song, one of the last like lines is, put it in a shoebox in the back of a drawer, then 50 years from today, your grandkids will find them and say, you didn't have songs directly implanted into your brain? Nah, we just had iPods. You know, like, this stuff isn't directly implanted in your brain. It's like, no, we just had insert device here. So, like, right? Like, that's the thing. I didn't have an iPod either. But I knew people who had iPod Touches, but I just didn't have an iPod. So, I remember that as, like, I always thought the iPod was better than MP3 until somebody made the observation, yeah, you're going to have to pay for everything. With MP3s, you can find sites up the wazoo, and I'm like, yeah, but they're not legal, are they? They're not legal, are they? It's like, no, but they didn't care. Because it was like that thing of, like, it's like emulation where people were like, because people were like, oh, emulation's illegal. It's like, yes, but they're not going to ever catch you. It's like, no, they're not really. And even if they see a whole bunch of, it's like the whole thing of drugs, because we were on Mount Royal, right? And we were doing there was drum circles, right? We're on the mountains, and they're listening to drum guys, and like 98% of people, 95% of people were smoking pot, right? And I'm like, smoking weed. I'm like, oh gosh, marijuana. I'm like, really? And I told my dad, I'm like, why don't they just arrest everybody? They can arrest everybody. And then he goes, yeah, but you know how much effing paperwork that would be for the people, and time, and court whatevers, and bull crap? And it's like, oh, I guess. So it's when people, what's it called? Pirate stuff. So many people do it that it ends up being this, like, we can't catch everybody. We'll pick like 1,000 people or 100 people, and we'll just do it, right? We'll just catch these 100 people, and then we'll wait, I don't know, a month or 6 months, and then catch another 100 people. And and eventually, this kind of stuff is dead. Like, I went on one of those websites to get songs. I think it was LimeWire I went on, right? And the thing, it brings like a pop up, like a thing, and it comes up and it goes, like, stop. This is illegal. We know who you are. We will find you. Stuff like that. And I'm like, really? No, you're not. You're not gonna find me. And they didn't. But we monitor you, so yeah. And it's like, stop being stupid. I mean, they didn't, but I'm just saying, like, they're like, yeah, stop doing that. Then shut down the IP, like shut down the website. Oh well, I don't know, right? Like I go on websites sometimes and I'm just like, oh, this doesn't exist anymore, right? So like, and then it comes up with this like, websites for sale, right? Websites for sale, and it's always the same looking thing: websites for sale, websites for sale. So I looked at one of the websites. I'm like, okay, you know what? I'll get an estimate. So I gave an estimate. The website was $5,000. No, wait, was it 5,000? Yeah, it was $5,000. I'm like, why? What the heck? No, but see, that's the thing. The website was $5,000 just to flat out buy. If the website was just up, and then I could just like get, because I wanted to get a website once, right? And I looked at them like, if I want to go with Google, it would be I think it was $17 a month, right? But if I wanted to go on another site, it would be like cheaper but still expensive, right? So I was like, I want to make a website one day, just not. I don't want to have to like worry about paying for it every month and whatever. And the free ones never give you enough stuff to do, so you're like, not kill me, but like, so. I'm not saying it's bad, like really bad, but shoot me. Like if I'm doing something specific, Like if I need like a picture hosting website, or I need a video hosting website, or I need a audio podcast hosting website, I just use some other service that already exists, right? Obviously, I'm going to put all those things on my website. I'm not going to sneeze. Thought I was going to sneeze. Yeah, on my website eventually, that I will have eventually, but until then, right, I'm just going to like, because like if I need a picture hosting website, just Instagram. If I need video, YouTube. If I need podcast, whatever, use a podcast thing. You know what I mean? I'm using SoundCloud because it's pretty easy to just go on there. I don't need no friggin' whatever. I'm going to put it on iTunes and the Play Store, but I don't know if like that'll happen anytime soon. Excuse me. So yeah, like that's the thing. I don't know if I'm gonna make a website like tomorrow, or I'm gonna make like I might never make a website, right? But I want to be able to also have one place to be like, if every one of these like places, these websites crash, if all these websites crash, I want to be able to be like, yeah, well, all my stuff's on my website, so I'm good. Like Cinemassacre has a YouTube channel, but if YouTube one day decides to just conk and be like, you're fucked, bro, we're gone, bro, just cease to exist, they have everything on their website, so Cinemassacre can be like, yeah, everything's on our website, we got it, we're good, nothing's lost, don't worry, that kind of stuff. Yeah, right, because that's the thing too, right? Okay, you know what peeved me off to I have the up the wazoo, like drove me up the wazoo, like completely just drove me batty, just drove me mad. When Vine died, all the Viners were just like, yeah, we'll just go on YouTube, and I was like, fine. I didn't really care. I was like, fine, whatever. Like, I could see that was gonna happen. But then what goes and happens? What happens? They all do it, and they all become massive these buttholes, and they're all honestly bleh, bleh, honestly pretty terrible. Like the Pauls turned into effing fucktards, okay? Excuse me. I think they're dum-dums, right? And then you've got like all the people who just don't do well on YouTube, and you're like, you're making YouTube videos, and you're like, because I thought, of course, notifications, but what was it called? Okay, what was I saying? Yeah, so the oh yeah, the guys who don't really do well. Oh yeah, I thought that Instagram, like, so I followed like 3 people on Instagram, like 3 minors that I was following on Instagram, right? So I was like, oh yeah, these minors are gonna be great, right? Or 2 or 3 minors, right? And then because I thought that they were just gonna move to Instagram and make vines on Instagram. No, they don't. No, I'm like, ugh. One of them kind of does, but the other 2 just no. Oh, the other one just no. I'm like, why? What? Why? It's dumb, but I mean, I don't know. I can't do anything about that, so yeah. And then you've got those people on YouTube that you're like dead last in your subscription box, right? And you just forget that you even subscribed to them, and they make a video like every year or something, and you're like, what? Like, I'm subscribed to my friend, but he makes videos like never, and I'm subscribed to my other friend who hasn't made a video in like 2 years or something, year and a half, 2 years. It's ridiculous. And I'm like, and I keep like, there's people at the bottom I forget, and I'm like, what? Really? Really? Like, it's gonna what? I'm like, oh yeah, I'm subscribed. And then there's this other guy I'm subscribed to, and he hasn't made a video in like 4 years. Well, he made a video recently, but like he hasn't made actual like videos in like 4 years. But he made a video and he's like, oh, I'm coming back. Don't worry, I'll make bigger and better. Cause I remember the last video he made, or one of the last videos he made. He's like, I'm gonna have to make like, I don't know, 13 a day, so I can get through every one of these things. All my toys. It's gonna be amazing, and you're gonna get so much content, right? So much, and then he just plopped off the face of the earth. He told us why, but it was a BS thing. But whatever. I'm not gonna go there. So, what's it called? Yeah, so he hasn't made one in 3 years. So like, oh, okay. And then when they do make a video, you're like, what? Whoa. Oh, I forgot I'm subscribed to you. You know what I mean? Like, I forgot I'm subscribed, to you. So, I don't know. It's just very, weird. I don't know. Different. I don't know. Like, Yeah, and then if something like YouTube dies, they're just gonna make another website to put it on Facebook, Vivo, what else? Well, all those websites were like, you're just gonna put it on a different website, and then that, if that website dies, it's just gonna make, because YouTube is gonna be the one thing that's gonna like last. Cause Vine was kind of, Vine was okay. It just kind of like piddled off, not to nothingness, but piddled off. Started to get a little bit worse, and like, and people just stopped watching. I guess I don't know why they really got rid of Vine. I don't like. Is there like a? Is that they did start to suck and nobody's watching it? Like, oh, it's terrible. No one's watching this. It's friggin' baloney. And then they just killed it, or they just killed it. I don't know. So it was like a because I was watching when YouTubers react, and when they originally came out with Vine. Well, I don't know originally, but when they came out with Vine, and Shane Dawson made the comment. He's like, "No, I'm not going on Vine. I'm not having another place to have to put things on. No, I'm done. I'm stopping here, and that's it. You know, I'm like, I'm with you, man. I'm not putting it on like a. It's not gonna be like my 30th place to put freaking content. You know, YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat, and then 16 other places, and my website, and whatever. The Vine, you know. And then the failed places that are like not dead, but there's like Google Plus, which like nobody. I'm sorry, nobody used Google Plus. Nobody uses Google Plus, and nobody used it. Like nobody I knew actually used Google Plus when it came out. Like ever. It was a thing, and people were like, yeah, 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 Google Plus, yeah, Google Plus, and then nobody used it, and then they just completely just effed it, and they were like, oh, forget it, no, I'm done, like I thought Google Plus was kind of a dumb thing, but then when they decided, oh, we're gonna make 3 different places, we're gonna make videos, photos, and it was like the people one, and it was like, no, stop, no, now you're just digging your grave deeper and deeper. Stop, you're dead, so stop. So. It's Google's failed social media. Well, Google actually had a different one. Some things started with a B. I don't know. Way back, but But then there's things that nobody uses but still exist. Like there's LinkedIn, which is very just much like just finding people. But that's what Facebook is. So anyway, and then there's MySpace, which still exists. It's just nobody uses it. And it's just full of people's profiles from like 2 years ago, 2006, whatever, 5, whatever, and people just using, that kind of stuff. I never used any of those things. I never even used Facebook. Okay, I don't have Facebook. I don't care. I think it's baloney. So I have an Instagram, and that's about it. I have a Twitter and a Snapchat, but I'm not giving you guys those stuff because I don't want you bombarding me with crap. So I made a email address for this podcast because I was gonna make just my regular email address and then just say put a subject podcast. But then I realized I'm like, there's gonna be so many email. Well, might not be any emails, but there's gonna be emails, right? And it's gonna be harder to do it. I'm just make a whole new thing. So just make a whole new email. It's gonna be so much easier. Just make a whole new email. So I decided to do that, and that's it. So I mean, yeah. So lots of social media go because somebody made my friend made the observation. He's like, Facebook's just the human Pokedex. I'm like, wow, that's a great way of putting that because it's the human way of finding people. Just the human, contact book thing. It's the electronic contact book. You know, electronic way of finding people. I'm like, it's like an electronic phone book kind of thing now. It's turned into this like, yeah. Well, it was other things, but like that's what it's turned into for a lot of people. Oh, where's so and so in life now from when I was 3 or when I was 7 or when I was whatever, you know. So, like, I'll use it to find someone and be like, oh yeah, what are they doing with their lives? And I'm like, oh, they're either a holes or they're married or they're off in Africa or whatever. Not saying that it's a bad thing, but I don't know. I don't use Facebook for webcams. So, and then whenever someone's like, "Oh, it's only on Facebook," I'm like, "F off." F off. I'm not getting Facebook just to do that. Or uh, they're on Facebook, and that's the thing, right? And the people who are not on Facebook who hate me, get on Facebook, it's on Facebook, and I'm like, no, shut up. I will never. It's like at conferences that I go to. I go to youth conferences, and this stupid thing is like there's always that stupid part that's in French, and you're like, F off. But it only takes one person to be like, I can't understand anything. I can't understand jack squat. And I'm like, well, you can't understand jack squat. That's not my problem. It's like, well, yeah, it is, because it takes one person to say that to go, well, now we need freaking translators. I'm like, oh, go F yourself. Because I went to one, it was a pretty big one, right? It was a pretty big one. And every 5 seconds, they had to just translate it. And then the guy at the end, a little bit cuckoo, but the guy at the end, he was like, I'm gonna use passionate, but I'm gonna say passionate is a very loose sense of passionate. The loosest sense of passionate, because, like, it's a crazy understatement, but, right? But, so he was like that, and then he had to have a French guy. So instead of being like, I don't know, hour and a half, 2 hours long, he ended up being like freaking 4 hours, not 4 hours, but he ended up being like almost like 3 hours or something, or 2 hours. And I'm like, oh god, because then the other guy, the French guy, had to be passionate too, and then just had to like, and it took forever, and it's just like, oh, go F yourself. But I mean, again, but that had a very big demographic of people who were like full on French. So at least I made a little bit of sense. At least it made some sense, right? It made more sense than this other one they go to, which is a smaller rally, which is only like, what, 50 people? Not even. Like 30 people. And they had a translator once too, but that was probably from like a handful of people going, well, I can't understand what you're saying. And at that point, I would have just told those people, F off, go home, just stop it. I'm not wasting my time. But you can't do that. So you gotta be like, okay, fine. Like, it just takes one person to be like, to say that. So it's like, ugh. If I was in charge of that, I wouldn't have said that. I would have been like, no, bye, go home, stop, leave, get out, now, get out. Oh man. So, but again, it takes one person to say that. So, which was why, if I was an event planner like that kind of thing, like planning events like that, I would just be like, nope. That would be the one part of the thing that would drive me up the wazoo. I'd be like, no, don't make me do this, please. Please don't make me do this. Don't make me actually have to, like, get more people and get more. I opened my window, but I realized it's too loud, so I had to close it. So, sorry. Yeah. Don't make me actually have to get, like, another person just because, like, 3 people, because 2 people, because one guy was like, yeah, I can't understand you people, so I really need a translate. Oh, yeah, go frig yourself. So, I'm not saying that I would not do it. I'm just saying I would just be like, So, I'm just glad I don't run things like that. Because that would drive me nuts. So. Like, just full on nuts. So. Yeah. So that's like, oh my, no! Just stop. Don't make me actually do that. No. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, and then there has to be another guy with another language who goes, well, I can't understand you either. Japanese, Chinese, Spanish, whatever, Spanish, Greek, Italian, anybody. And then they'll go, but no, okay, at that point, I just go, no. Go F yourself. Find some other way to translate your. I don't care. Stop. Like, what I had, because I went to an Alouette's breakfast once, right? And what they gave us were these translators, but they didn't work at all, like, at all. But what they were trying to do was just listen, and then you got real-time translated. But that doesn't work at all. I had to process and had to do all this stuff where it was basically just forget it. Like, just no, stop. You know what I mean? Just stop. No, it doesn't work at all. Well, I mean, which is not like that'll be a thing eventually. I'm sure. The like real time translators thing. You put something in your ear and you're real time translating with like some other guy and it'll detect the language. It'll detect both languages, and you'll just be real time. And some other guy can come in a third language, and all three of you can understand, and it'll be great. I think it'll be great. When the technology gets good, it'll be good. Like it'll be great. So yeah, like well, at least we're not back in those days where you just gotta have your freaking massive insert language to language dictionary here, and then just bring it everywhere and be like, yeah, I need freaking, you know, and then la 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 la. Oh, what'd you say? Blah, blah, blah. Go forever. That must be stupid. Like learning languages is so much easier now, but it's also kind of a little bit like, I don't know. It's not bad. It's not as easy as it could be though. It could be like insanely easy, but it's not hard. Like it's not like when back in the day when we just be like, they put up words on a board, you'd look it up in a freaking dictionary, you come back, you'd learn them. People learned them. It just took us a lot longer. I'm sure. I don't know. Languages will be easier eventually. Yeah, so like that's the thing. That would be the thing that would drive me just bonkers. Just be absolutely bonkers. Be like, don't make me actually get more people. Stop. So, good thing I am not planning events like that, like doing big conference things like that. That would drive me nuts. So, yep. So, I don't know. Language joke bonkers. So, because as everybody just had to be friggin' translated, and there were like 8 people, and then when the guy wasn't there, some rando would be like, "Oh, you gotta be translated. I'll translate you. Make that." It's like, oh god. And then if the guy was awful, see, if the guy was awful, neither party would know whether they were saying the right thing. So if it was like French to English, or if it was English to French, the French guy would never be like, "That's exactly what I was saying," but then the English guy would never be like, if it was English to French to English, or the English guy would be like, never, or the English people would never be like, would never know if it was always exactly what was supposed to be said. So you're like, you end up with this like, I don't know. It's just dumb. It's the stupidity of where we live in our freaking world. Okay, Quebec, one of the only places, there is France, but one of the only places in the world where you have to learn French. You don't have to learn English. Not at all. You don't have to learn English at all. But you have to learn French. You have to learn French. There's 2 things you need to pass high school. History and French. Nothing else. Well, you need the other things, but I'm saying like, if you only passed French and English and history, like, that's all you need to pass high school. Which is so freaking stupid. Baloney in my opinion. So if you pass one of them and don't... I know people who the only reason they didn't graduate high school was they didn't pass French. Yes. Go bring yourselves. So it's like, come on, people. But hey, I mean, I can't stop that change that anytime soon. So just accept it and move on. So, and they want to make it even harder for people to graduate now. You need better French. I'm like, go after yourself. Government of Canada, Quebec, go after yourselves. So, I'm not saying that's the worst thing ever. I'm just saying, like, I mean, some people wouldn't know French, but yeah. I mean, it's like when I think back, I'm like, I said to my friend once, I'm like, yeah, the only reason we speak French is because some guy 150 years ago, 160 years ago, was like, yeah, comes, he's French, goes, yeah, we're learning, it'll be French now. I'm like, what? Why? Because he decided that. If it was a Japanese guy, if it was an Italian guy, it was a Greek guy, it was a Spanish guy, was a Russian guy, would be speaking those languages, but which drives me nuts. I'm like, oh, really? Come on, really? Should have been an English guy. The English guy should have been like, it's English, no other language. We're done. That's it. That's all. But hey, that's that. So I think it's stupid. I think it's dumb. But I can't change anything, so I'm not gonna be like, yeah, yeah, oh no, it's gotta be done, can't be changed. I'm not gonna make a petition and get people. No, no, it's never gonna work either. People are gonna be like, no, go after yourself. Learn French. And I'll be like, you know, whatever. You know, so yep, yep, so, whatever. So I mean, we will have these really great translators like translation things one day. Like some of the translators I've had in the past were great, and some of them were awful. Some of them were like on point, right? And some of them were just awful in terms of like they were like three sentences behind, and like oh something about a snake, and then on the camping, and when we were camping, we were finding things, and cause I went to a camp, and then they had Russians, and they were in fluent Russian, right? Because they do a Russian camp, right? And so the fluent Russians, right? So they had a baptism, right? And their baptism was like, okay, whatever, right? So the first guy we had was decent. He was maybe a sentence or a few like seconds behind, and you have to stop and process, yes, but he wasn't awful. And then the second guy I had, he was awful. I'm not gonna say he was awful, but he was not exactly good. So it was like, oh boy. He'd be like three sentences behind, and then he'd have to process and have to stop, and he'd be like, oh, and then and he just completely skip. He'd be like, no, forget it. And so it was a very broken, but I understood a lot of it, but it was just kind of like whatever. So, it wasn't bad. It was just, I got the gist of it. I just didn't think, it wasn't great. So, yep. But, what are you gonna do? Yeah, so. I actually was the most underdressed person there, so. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So underdressed. But, I mean, hey, what are you gonna do, Not that it's, I needed to be fully full, but everyone else looked nice. I was like, oh, damn. Oh, well. Like the whole, oh, well. So. Not that it was bad, but it was just, So. Whatever, right? Like, whatever. So. Yeah, I mean, yeah, so I just kind of looked a little out of place. But at least I had a shirt that wasn't. I think I was wearing like a gray shirt, so I wasn't like wearing the worst of shirts that I could have been wearing. I could have been wearing like off. I could have been wearing like a neon green shirt or something. Something green or blue or something, and just like, ooh, like looked completely, different and bad. I could have looked like awful, but I didn't look awful, so at least it was like, you don't look too bad. Because there were people who had like blue shirts on, and I'm like, oh, you look, no offense, you look completely out of place, just full on out of place. So, not saying it's a bad thing, but it was pretty not great. So, I'm not, yeah, I'm just staring at my old camcorders, and I'm looking at these like handycam camcorder, like really old. This one's a Sony HD Handycam. No, don't start. What is it? It's like is there a model number on this? HDR CX100. And I'm just remembering like what's on this, and I'm like, oh gosh. And then the other one is a JVC Everio Handycam, and it's just like I'm looking at these things, and it's like old plays I used to do, and then I look at some of the random stuff, and it's just like, what the heck, right? Like, what what the heck is like on this stuff? I'm like, oh gosh, like the random things I recorded just because, oh boy, it's gonna die. Recorded just because I had the opportunity to record it. Where is it? I had something to record it, and so I recorded it. You know what I mean? You know, I was like, yeah. So I just record. I recorded it because I had the opportunity to, and I recorded it. Like, here's one.
My name is Dr. Banner, and I am creating a nuclear-powered bomb. What I was trying to do first is get the nuclear power bubble
And then the theme
and
song.
stuff toilet paper in.
Now you say the theme song. Dr. Banner, melted by gamma ray, turned into the Hulk. 18 and glamorous. The Hulk Kid.
Then
We're back with Dr. Banner. What are you trying to do, Dr. Banner?
yes, Igor, I am trying to make a nuclear power bomb. First, I put this outside. Done. 4 pieces of tissue. Then I get a little degameration liquid and squirt it out. Then I get a match. Put it out. Oh my god! Our dog is outside! My dog is outside!
No! Go, get him. Save your dog.
Stay here, doggy!
No! Banner! It's gonna explode! Boom! Boom! Everything went blank! What happened? Are you okay? I think so.
I think so.
Oh, what happened to me?
I don't know what happened.
Oh. Oh my gosh. That person just tried to kill your dog!
Did?
Yes!
Where's your dog?
I'm trying to kill Dr. Banner's doggy!
No! What's happening? My finger! It's turning green!
See this doggy?
No!
Bye-bye, doggy!
My other... Oh! Igor,
Stop wasting so many tissue.
I'm making an experiment. A gamma radiation experiment. A bomb. First, I dip the toilet paper.
Yeah, weird things like that. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I remember this stuff. Oh, this is weird. Weird stuff, bro. I'm like, oh my gosh, really? I'm like, oh boy. Like things you just be like, why would you record? Why would you tape that? Why would you videotape that? Why would you record that? But like, why? And my dad's like, why not? I'm like, you don't need that. Like I told my friend once, I was like, yeah, literally like what I want to say like 90% of my childhood was like on a tape somewhere, and I'm like, and he's like, okay, maybe pictures, sure, but like the tapes really of everything, and I'm like, yeah, I could literally find you a tape of like anything I did. I went here, I went there, I went anything, not anything, but like anything pretty much. You know what I mean? It's just like, why? I'm looking at some of this stuff like pool crap, and it's just no offense, it's BS baloney. It's something that I actually want to keep, yes, but a lot of other things that are just like, why did you ever record this? I'm never gonna want this ever. I know for a fact I don't want this ever, but it's like, well, you have it now, so it's like, yeah, well, in 10 years, 30 years, 50 years, 100 years, you'll be like, oh, I remember that. Yeah, and then things that are like 12 seconds long, or 30 seconds, or 50 seconds long, like a minute, and you're like, and it's nothing relevant, so you're like, what the freaking heck was the point of that? Like, I don't know. That me? Or that Matthew? That's me. Is it me? black is really. Oh yeah, I'm looking at a video of me at like a friend's. I think it's my friend's grandparents' cottage, right? And he's got this like device. It's a really weird device. It's like a cone with a hole in the top, and you just pull, and it would like spew water out. Oh, that was a great, cool thing. See, like I'm watching this, and I'm like, why would I ever want this? This is something I'd want in life. That was like 12 seconds or 30 seconds of like, I'm in a canoe, I go backwards, and that's that. You know? I really want this, don't I? I want this, don't I? It's like, oh, of course, you know? Oh, you never know if you're gonna want this or need this in life. I'm like, for what? I'm gonna need this or want this? It's like, oh. Like, you know what I mean? Oh, I was gonna die. Oh, that's my brother. He's in the canoe, and he goes, oh, yeah, it looks weird when you do this. Insert jack off hand hand signals, hand gestures, Oh, boy. Yeah. Yeah, it does look weird. Oh, I remember you know. Oh, and it doesn't look like I'm jacking off. Oh, no, it doesn't. Stop! Just stop! Wait, what? What am I watching this for? Looking back and I'm like, I wanted this, didn't I? Oh, I wanted this, alright. I'll want this in 10 years, or 50 years, or 30 years. Oh, yes, I want this. They're all, oh my gosh. And they've all made the observation, well, not all, but my brothers made the observation, yeah, you look like you're jerking off. Yes, of course. But, come on. You know. But, wow, this is just weird stuff I'm watching. I'm like, why am I watching this? Okay, now this one at least is longer than the last one. It wasn't just me for 10 seconds in a canoe backwards. Why am I watching this? I don't care. Let's even keep going more. Like, there's things like plays on here that I'm like, yes, I want this. Definitely. But then there's other things that are like, why? Like, this is me recording. It's the War of 1812 reenactment, right? Upper Canada Village. And I'm like, okay, at least it's something. Oh, yeah, that's not bad. Like, there's some things that are like, I wouldn't really have cared if I didn't have it, but it's cool to have. But other things are just like, no. Ah, and it's died. It's dead. Okay. But still, like, it's like cool things. And then if I look at the other camera has a bunch of random things that I'm never going to really want to watch. I know I'm not going to watch. Well, even my camera is like my dad's friend's camera, so it's like a bunch of like watch.
What kind of dis?
That was it. That was the whole thing. It was like 12 sec. Ugh, what's this dumb? No offense, what's this dumb? Like, look, this one right here. Look.
Come and see what it says here. Come and see what it says. What do you think that is?
See, it's like, why? No offense, but like, really? There's certain things I'm just like, why? Why do I even have this? Or other things that are like, yes, I want, but what? that was just my childhood. It was a bunch of record, like, oh, record this, record that, record everything. I'm like, why? I'm gonna want this in 30 years. It's like, oh, definitely, gonna want this in 30. Oh, f off. I'm not gonna want this in 30 years. You know that for a fact. I'm not gonna want this. But hey, you can't really do anything about that, can you? It exists now. And oh no, and the worst is a bunch of them are all on like 8mm cassettes, and I'm like, yeah, look, Dad. Now how are we gonna even watch these things? And they're like, oh, we'll convert them one day. We need a camera to do so. It's like, so we don't have a camera, and we have a converter, no camera. I'm like, oh, but this converter I don't think works, but whatever. I'll go play stuff, you know. So it's like, no offense, but it's just drives me a little bonkers. But that's like my childhood. It was just a bunch of like recorded, which now I look back, I'm probably gonna be like, yes, I want to watch some of them, but then there's other ones that are gonna be like nothingnesses of like, why would you watch that? Why would you want that? And it's probably gonna be not bad experiences, but just experiences that you're gonna be like, I never wanted that recorded. Are you stupid? I don't want that recorded. No, go foop yourself. Go F yourself. No. You know, but it's recorded now, so what are you gonna do, right? So I think that's gonna be all for now. That'll be episode 2 of Tacoimposters. If you want to get in touch with me, ask me questions, go to gmail.com / no, sorry. Go to Tacoimposters. Imposters with an ER at the end. Not OR. At gmail.com. Adios, muchachos.